Welcome to Four Calling Birds. Honest conversations that give us all a voice.
Four calling birds.
May I introduce Natalie Spence, singer and actress.
My dad had a spider's nest in his belly button once.
Stephen Carter Bailey, our resident agony uncle and Great British Bake Off queen.
Psychologically constipated.
Hayley Clapham, voiceover artist and lover of spreadsheets.
Do not give it a clean with an earbud.
And me, Meredith Hepner Chapman. Today I am very excited about the guest I have because I've been stalking her on Instagram. Wondering how she does it because I'm a hoarder, but also thinking it's a very tempting option. So I'm joined by Amy Nicholson, who is a TikTok and Instagram star and probably other social media platforms. Freelance Amy.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome to Four Calling Birds podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No, I'm actually really starstruck because I'm always starstruck by real people.
Oh,
I want you to talk a bit about your story. Well, I want to talk completely about your story, but then I want to talk about the logistics of how you do it as well. So really, you have an Instagram account that I came across because you live in your van, to put it bluntly.
yes, I do. I mean, I had a smaller van before the one that I'm currently converting, and I wasn't living full time in that, but I did a lot of full time trips in it. And the longest trip that I did was Europe last year in sort of October time. And that trip kind of swayed me to make the decision to sell that van and get a bigger one so that I could move full time into the van. And that is what I'm going to be doing in about a week's time.
Well, I think I hope for good weather because this can't be as wonderful as it looks on Instagram all year round. What prompted the decision was it you decided to travel and then you thought, actually, no, I could do this? Or was there a situation that happened, possibly called a pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few things. I mean, the reason that I've always loved vans and the sort of whole idea of van life. My mum and my dad, they have been into sort of camping and caravans and vans forever. They did their honeymoon in the Rockies in a camper van, and my dad's got a VW Transporter which he loves. He goes to Scotland and they go to Cornwall, so it's kind of been in the family and I've known about it. And I did my first trip to New Zealand in a van, and I just completely fell in love with just the simple life, just having everything you need in that one little space, and that's it. And so I knew that I wanted to get a van and to sort of explore the UK and travel a bit more because I love traveling as well. So I knew that I wanted to get one, but I didn't think I would move into it full time until the pandemic hit, basically. So I was living in a flat on my own in Kent. It was quite a nice flat. I'm a freelancer and I had good clients. I had good work, and then COVID hit last March, and annoyingly, I work in online marketing, but just annoyingly at that point, all of my clients were actually in the events industry. And so when COVID hit, I just lost all my work, and suddenly I was in this flat having to pay all the bills and all the rent on my own with no income. And yeah, it was like it was a really scary time. And it just kind of made me think and question a lot. And I ended up moving out of the flat and back in with my parents, just because I was just worried about financial stuff.
Sure.
And then I decided to sell my car and everything. And my parents kind of helped me with a loan to get my first van. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. I went on some trips, and then I went to Europe for over a month in it. And I just realized that I just that simple way of living, I just absolutely loved it. I fell in love with it. And so, yeah, here I am now, having just spent 6 months of the last lockdown converting a new van and completely myself with no DIY skills. And yeah, I'm going to move into it full time. And I don't know how long I'm going to live in it, but the I don't really have a plan, and that's kind of how I sort of live life a little bit. So yeah,
You have to be very strict, I think, deciding to go traveling anyway and with luggage allowances has never been my forte. But I think people, if they're going traveling, that there's that, oh, what do I take? What do I take? So if you're suddenly going to be living in a van, you really need your essentials.
Yeah.
And you need some really good design ideas to capitalize on the space.
Yeah, 100%.
So where do you start?
Well, do you know what? I think it helps that I don't have a lot of stuff. And that is because just the way that I've lived my life, I have traveled a lot. I've lived a lot. I lived in Bali for 3 years. I've lived in London for a little bit. I've lived like in a lot of places. So I think naturally I don't actually have
your memories are places. You don't have things.
Yeah. I'm not like, it's not like a materialistic thing. I've always sort of bought things and then sold them. Like I've never owned a house and had to buy like loads of furniture or anything like that. So when I moved into my flat, I did actually buy like a sofa and things, and that's in a storage unit, but it's like a very small amount of stuff. So I think to start with, I'm not used to having loads of stuff. So it's probably a little bit easier for me to move into a smaller space. But yeah, there's definitely some things that you have to compromise. So, when I'm home and like living in a house, I just order so much stuff online. And like when you live in the van, you just can't do that. And I actually really like that because
you can't get post.
Yeah, exactly. You can't get post. Any post that I would get would just come back to my registered address, which is where I am now. So yeah, and then there's ways. I mean, I don't know if you watch like Tiny Spaces or Tiny Homes? But I just
amazing small spaces.
Yes,
is it?
That's it. Yeah. And there's so many ways that you can make a small space work. That's what I'm doing at the moment in my van, because it's kind of at the stage where it's almost complete and I'm trying to make use of all the spaces. So there's this tiny gap between my driver's seat and my bulkhead wall. And probably no one would even think to put anything there. But I'm going to tomorrow put some hooks there so I can hang my clothes that I don't want to crease. So it's stuff like that you just got to... Yeah, you just got to think of. Yeah.
You said to me earlier, I mean, you've been building this yourself. You said to me earlier, I didn't really do DIY. We had vans and we were into camping, but that was about it. When I look at your video, you've got a nicer kitchen than me. I mean, you've got sort of a little Belfast sink.
Yeah.
Looks like, I mean, it's so beautiful. Do you?
Thank you.
I've got to ask the question. So is your bed down all the time, or can you have 2 singles, but you have to go and check out Amy's TikTok and Instagram, which is at @freelance_Amy, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And is TikTok the same?
Yes, it is, I think.
And we'll put everything in show notes. But so you have to kind of get the visual up for this. But
yeah,
the build I was obsessing over today, it's like you've done these amazing storage benches that are almost like banquettes.
Yes.
Which I'm assuming could be 2 single beds.
Yeah. So what happens is, so the reason that I have gone for the layout that I have is because I work remotely, and I'm a freelance online marketing, and I work completely remotely. So my van is not just where I sleep and where I eat, it's also my office. So I wanted to make sure that my working space was just as good as my sleeping space, because I needed to be productive and I needed to have a good area. So for me, every morning I'll put away my bed and set up the space for the office, and that will get me in my sort of zone. So it's almost like it's my commute, but it's obviously a lot smaller. So it's 2 sort of benches, and then the table kind of
swivels.
Yeah, it swivels. Yeah, it's amazing. And it stands on a leg, which is connected to the bench. And then I will have 2 cushions that go on the bottom and then 2 cushions that go on the side. And then what happens is the table comes off the stand and it sits in the middle between the benches and rests. And then I have 2 extra bits of ply that go and make up the whole. And then that whole thing becomes the bed. And then the cushions basically just come down, and that's the mattress. And the cushions are made of foam, so it's really comfy.
And you made everything.
I did. I mean, I ordered the foam and I cut the foam to size using my mum's 40-year-old meat carver. But no, I mean, my dad, bless him, has been really helpful, because like, my DIY skills are shocking, or were shocking. I'd honestly never even picked up a saw like 6 months ago. So I have definitely had help from my dad, and I've used a guy that lives locally who did his own van, and he helped me with the stuff that I just could not get my head around. Like, for instance, the electrics, like that's too much for me. I don't want to drive something where I'm worried that I might blow myself up, you know. So I wanted to make sure that it was safe, and I also really wanted to make it a place that I loved. And you know, it's really nice when people say that they think what I've done is beautiful, because I love it. And
it's so pretty. It's so pretty. I mean, it's glorious, and you're where you end up, and your views, you can just change. Anyway, sorry, you love it when people say that.
Yeah, no, it's just I suppose it's nice, isn't it, when people come in and come into your home and appreciate it, because this is literally going to be my home on wheels now for the foreseeable, like I don't know how long for. So yeah, so like the Belfast sink and stuff, I really wanted to make it a home that I feel comfortable in. But there's a lot of research that goes into it, because like you can't just put, well, some people do, but you can't really put like a Belfast sink into a van because it's really heavy, and you have to be careful of weight when it comes to camper vans.
Of course.
So it's like hours of research, and I managed to find this sink that looks like a Belfast sink, but it's made with this special resin or something that's a lot lighter. So there's a lot of research that goes on into how you can space save and how you can weight save. And yeah,
and are you good at maths and physics and that sort of
awful?
Because that's proper architecture that you're sort of, I mean, the folding tape, the way it all sort of folds into itself.
Yeah. Do you know what? YouTube has been, I
don't say that. I'm always arguing with my children about how much YouTube.
I know.
No, do you know what? It's very interesting. You're right. There's lots you can learn on YouTube.
Yeah, there just seems to be a video for anything. If you have got a query or a question, there's always going to be an answer on YouTube.
Have you got a YouTube channel?
I do actually. I've been doing so. I've got I've been basically filming the whole build. So I think I've got maybe 5 or 6 episodes. So I was trying to do an episode for each stage of the van build. So you can go back and see like when I first got it, when it was like November and it was starting to get cold and horrible, and it had like it was just basically like a tin can. It's crazy to look back at it that point then and see how far I've come.
I want you to have a TV show. I really do. I watched something the other night on iPlayer, and it was a guy in a canal boat, and it was very real and gritty because the boat was damp and he was getting stuff caught in the, underneath, and it wasn't glamorous. It wasn't. Yeah. The Prunella Scales one is so lovely when they give Timothy West, and that's like, oh, I'd love to do that. And then you see the reality of it.
Well, that's what I try and do. So when I was on my trip in Europe, I try with my Instagram, and this is what I'll do when I move into the van full time in like a week or so. I do like a sort of series called Van Life Realities, because the van life thing has very much exploded on social media.
It really has.
Yeah, it's become really popular, really trendy, and there's so many amazing pictures. And obviously I try to make my pictures look just as nice, and that's what Instagram is about, really. The majority of posts on Instagram are positive and like showing the beautiful sides of life, but I really do try and be real with it and say, when you're changing your water tank and it's peeing it down with rain and it's freezing and you're standing there in like a mac and you're soggy, and that's not fun.
No.
But those are the realities of van life. It's not all, sunsets and I don't know, it's not all that it seems. There are definitely downsides.
There's a lot of freedom though. But so how much water does it carry? I mean, what can you get away with in the day for sort of basic washing, cooking?
So my tank is 80. No, that seems like too big. Oh gosh, I'm on the spot now. I can't remember. But in my previous van, I think it was like 10 litres, and it was so bad. I couldn't even sort of get through a day. And where I'd be wild camping, because I was in Portugal and wild camping was allowed then, I would just be off the radar for like 3-4 days. I wouldn't be able to fill up my water, so I'd have to buy like massive bottles from the supermarket just to to replenish it. So I wanted to make sure that this van had a bigger tank, and you can put the tanks underneath the van, but that requires, I feel like, a lot. I just basically couldn't do that myself. So I've tried to get the biggest tank I can to fit under the cupboard. And I think it's like maybe 60 or 70 litres. And then I just get a hose that extends, and you just, I mean, there's so many free water filling stations.
That's what I was going to say. So, I mean, I've never been camping. I'm terrible to say, but I would be awful. And mosquitoes love me.
Oh, no.
So what do? You have to, do you plan your journey, or is there, I mean, there must be an app now, surely, for plug-in places. And what do? Do you think, well, I'm going to do a bit of work and then I'm going to go here and I know that there's water there? I mean, or is it just, I wake up and think, might just chill out here today? Or is it really that wonderful and free?
It really is. I mean, obviously there's moments where there's more planning, and I think this summer, because of Corona and the fact that a lot of people in the UK will probably be holidaying more in the UK.
It's going to be a bum fight, isn't it?
Yeah, the campsites are going to be busier. I think I was listening to the news, and campsites went up by like 30% in bookings, like already, when we first got, I think it was back in like April. So yeah, if it's, you need to book ahead maybe for some places. But yeah, I mean, the beauty of the way that I've kind of tried to design my life with the remote working as well is that I just wanted that freedom, and just to be able to, you know, and not having the house and the kids yet and all that kind of stuff. I am very independent and free. So I have the beauty to sort of design my life like that, which is amazing. And the van really gives me that opportunity. So before I sort of do settle down, I'm just, I want to make the most of the
and I would say do that. I absolutely would. If someone said to me, what would you tell your younger self before you do settle down and have children? Make memories, travel. Don't waste money on clothes. You know, don't waste money on silly stuff. I mean, obviously have fun, but travel, you know, go to bars in Portugal and go to bars in Bali. And I wish I'd traveled more.
Travel has just been something that I've done forever, and I don't think I'll ever fall out of love with it. And it's a funny one because I think I get some really, really lovely messages on Instagram from people that are just, I think like there's a lot of pressures I feel in society to be, especially maybe as a woman and in your 30s, you know, I'm 33 and I'm not married, I don't have kids, you know, and that pressure and feeling like you're missing out can get really intense sometimes. And I've just really got to the stage where I'm just not bothered by it. I'm just doing, you know, some of those things are completely out of my control as well. So I'm just trying to live life like in the moment and doing things that make me happy day by day. And living in a van and doing that is right now. So
well, I know you're staying at your parents' at the moment while you do the van up, so it's very difficult to ask now. But do you find you are more creative when you're out on the road?
Totally, yeah, because the sort of photography and the videography and all that kind of stuff that I love doing, and like I actually love creating content. I get so many ideas when I'm outside and meeting all these different people and doing all these different things. And I honestly just I've been thinking about that. I want to do this thing when I move into the van of doing something like outrageous and new, like every month, and just, you know, filming it, and just because life is just so short. And, you know, being at home has been really great. And I've had the project, and it's, you know, we've been in lockdown. So there's, you know, it's been perfect timing really to have this kind of project. But I am just itching to do stuff. Like,
I bet.
Adventurous.
What's her name? Does she have a name?
She actually doesn't have a name yet. I keep getting asked this. I think right at the beginning I said something like Consuela, because I'm like a really big Friends fan. No, I need to think of a name. Yeah.
And how far do you plan to take Consuela?
She's Consuela now.
She is Consuela now.
So I am going to spend a lot of time in Cornwall, and then I hopefully would like to go up to Scotland and do that. So sort of all over the UK. And then I've got my best friend's wedding in the south of Spain in September. So
and you're one of those jammy people that never has to worry about accommodation.
No, I just
Rock
honestly,
up.
I like at the moment, I'm obviously trying to see friends and stuff now. Lockdown's easing, and I just go and just stay in my van. It's
Brilliant.
go
It's
to the
brilliant.
pub, and you'll find me in the morning just in the car park, like just waking up.
I think it's great. Is there a law about what you have to do with your car keys if you've been drinking?
Oh, do you know what? That is a good question. I don't know how if it's different.
I think if you're in the back, I think if it's a camper van and if you're in the back, it's fine. But I always wonder when you watch things like Line of Duty or, things where there are journalists camping out and they've had, a drink in the back. And I was wondering, you meant to put your car keys somewhere to kind
I'm
of
pretty sure you are, but I think with the camper van, if you're not in the front, then it's probably fine.
Steven will know the answer to that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to chat to you in a little bit if you don't mind.
No,
only because he lived in a caravan.
Did he?
Not a lot of people know that, but he did. And I'm a mega hoarder, and he will literally laugh at the fact that I'm even talking to you as though it's a consideration of a life I might consider.
Would you ever consider it?
If I could seriously streamline or have a really good storage facility I knew would be safe, and I could, because actually a loft, once you put it all up there, it's kind of the same thing. You live your life.
I mean,
not really.
There are some incredible conversions, and they're like buses. Like my original plan when I was when I first done my first van trip in New Zealand was to convert a schoolie, like a US
yellow school bus.
Yeah. And I've watched this Netflix series about this couple from Germany that did one, and it was incredible what they did, and it was huge, and I'm sorry, but it was so much nicer and bigger than any flat in London that I rented.
Oh, don't even get me started about what you pay in London. Yeah. And then Spice World, I did want a big red London bus conversion. I thought that was,
oh my gosh,
that would be pretty good. God, yeah, there's loads. There's definitely, I've seen not George Clark's Amazing Spaces, but possibly something similar. Someone lives in an old aeroplane.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, there's a lot. A lot of. It's all sort of. I feel like because the van life thing is kind of exploding a little bit. There's more sort of tiny homes, and I would love to convert my own like tiny home somewhere, like in remote Cornwall, and maybe Airbnb. I don't know. There's lots. It's whetted my appetite, this tiny home thing.
Oh, you could make a sort of real eco pod.
Yeah, like something.
That'd be your next venture.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think the wondrous thing of your van, and I know that Steven's got questions, so I don't want to ask too many more questions and take it away from him. Like I said, you do it so beautifully. You sell it so beautifully, which is what you do. So I mean, you're clearly brilliant at your job, and your content is exquisite.
Oh, thank you.
And actually, I reckon you could sell it to me, the biggest hoarder and the biggest homebody in the world. So if you could sell it to me, you can probably sell it to anyone. But there must be times, Amy, where you're, feeling crap and there's a storm and you.
Yeah.
What do you sort of do to talk yourself out of that, and or just is it another day?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. There are times where it's really lonely, and I've on my Instagram I've talked about my struggles with mental health as well, and there are definitely times when I felt very alone and upset, but it always seems to, when I'm in the van, there's just something about the freedom and waking up in a different day, and it's suddenly like no, this is, I don't know, it just felt like this is where I was supposed to be. But also the beauty of it is that you can always move on somewhere else, or move on and go and find a friend, or move on and go back home. Like, you're mobile, so if you,
it just doesn't matter, does it?
No. So
and that's that whole wonderful thing, it just doesn't matter.
Exactly. There's just so much freedom and movement with it, and I think that's what's great about it. If there are some times when I'll find a spot to sleep in, and my gut feeling is just, this isn't right. And
I was going to ask you about this,
and it is quite, it's scary, but you just listen to your gut and you move on, and that's again the beauty of it. You can literally just drive on.
But aside from feeling, I was really thinking, what happens if you pull up in the night? And I mean, I would just start thinking of scary stuff.
Yeah.
because that's what we do. We're idiots. So we sit there and then think there's definitely a clown outside with a knife. You know, it's just
Oh, don't say that.
I literally can psych myself up. I don't want any of it. But I'm assuming a lot of the places you stay are campsites or secure places with shower blocks and water and well, you've got your own electricity and water, but I'm assuming laundry areas, things like that. Certainly across Europe, they're sort of dotted around quite liberally.
Yeah.
But I mean, you must have times when you're scared. I mean, have you had a scary situation where you've thought, I'm going to scramble in the front and just drive off?
I've actually only had one, which I think is quite good, really.
Yeah, and touch wood, that's it.
Yeah, and it I also get those kind of messages on Instagram quite a lot from other females that are wanting to do this and are wanting to solo travel, but are, you know, afraid of those situations, which I totally get, and I definitely felt frightened. But yeah, and this situation was actually, it was getting really late. I was driving from Spain to Portugal and I was doing a lot of hours of driving, and it was getting to about sort of 10:30 at night, and I knew that I had to pull over, but I wasn't quite as far as I needed to be. So I wasn't near my campsite. So I pulled over, and there's an app called Park for Night, which is amazing. And it tells you all these campsites, or it tells you like picnic spots. It tells you everything basically about camping. So I found a sort of camp spot that's not a campsite, but it's somewhere that camper vans can park, and there's like a little hookup for your water and stuff like that. And sometimes they can be in really, really random places. And this one was obviously just off the motorway, and it was, I think, more for people like me that had been on long journeys, and it was just like a quick overnight stop. And I pulled in, and it was just lorries and just loads of men walking around, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, so it was really weird. And I just like kept going basically. But I'll always make sure that there's at least another camper van in the spot that I'm staying with. I won't stay somewhere unless there's somebody else there. And I always try and make sure that wherever I'm staying, I've looked at the reviews. And on this Park for Night app, which is so good, other campers can leave their reviews and pictures. So it's all very, you know, you feel quite safe knowing that you're staying somewhere that other people have recommended. And I think you just got to be quite savvy about it. Yeah, I've got lots of knives in my drawer anyway. So if anyone comes knocking,
you're very savvy. The idea of camper vans are, you know, a family thing, but actually the reality of driving around in a van is a very male orientated environment. And I bet the misogyny and the condescending behavior when you are, you know, needing to change a tire or doing some work on your van must, I bet there's a few tales.
The looks that I get when I'm driving on the motorway, it's just people, because both my vans have been white as well, so
you've got a copy of the Sun.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can hear that. That's Max, which is why I could never live in a van, and that means Steven has just walked into the room. As you heard earlier, Max is very excited about the fact that Stephen Carter-Bailey, our resident agony uncle and Great British Bake Off queen, who is also Max's pseudo father, has just walked in. But he has been chomping at the bit to share his experience and to ask about how you've probably like, I don't cook, I change tyres.
I'm going to need some advice from him, I think.
Well, there you go. So I'm going to pass you over now, and I'm going to take these monstrous dogs out. Steven.
He's adorable to look at, but
hello,
angry little German. Hello.
How
are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Sorry, I wanted to muscle in on this chat because
okay, I'm happy to speak to you.
Well, I mean, I have to admit, I love watching like transformation videos on Facebook. You know, the ones that come up, me and my husband, you know, sold our property for 6 million, and we just converted a van and, you know, traveled the world. I'm like, oh, that looks so good. But
I wish I'd sold something for 6 million, but I've just got the van.
The reality is often the budget is tiny.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk to you because I want to get your story, but I'm going to tell you mine briefly. So I interestingly lived in, I think it's interesting now. It wasn't at the time. I lived in a caravan. I lived in, it was actually the setup was quite interesting. It was a touring caravan that was had been crane lifted into a garden of my now ex-in-laws, and there was an outhouse. So essentially, the outhouse was the bedroom and the sitting area, and then the touring caravan, which you had to walk out of the outhouse into the caravan, was the bathroom, kitchen, and eating area.
I love it.
And so it was the most bizarre setup for 3 years. That was 2012 to 2015.
Because that's what we were just
14,
saying,
15.
that the whole sort of van life and camping and caravanning has really kind of blown up in the last few years and become really, really almost not like trendy, but it's just become a bit of a phenomenon. But before that really wasn't something that people were talking about.
Well, it's often sneered at. I mean, I worked for a very big UK holiday company for many years. I won't say the name, but obviously their biggest seller was either static units or touring caravans. And there's this huge market for touring and static units and caravans. But I think actually living in it or living it is something entirely different. I was very nervous. The reason my now ex and I did this was because we needed to save money. We didn't have the opportunity to live rent-free anywhere. The only option we had was to live in the back garden of his parents. And this was, although it seems really crazy, this was the best option for us. And so I had to move over to, I'd left a sort of a nice normal sized kitchen and moved over to a caravan kitchen. And those things are not designed for everyday like use. So I had to be really clever. Now, I wouldn't suggest packing away a Kenwood stand mixer in your caravan when you go away. But I had to think about these things, that every inch of space was used. I had to cook and bake every single day in there. And I got so used to it when I finally bought a house and got a full-size kitchen. I'd have a space like this, the size of sort of A4 diary, and I would work in this space and I wouldn't leave it. So I'd have my knife, my chopping board, my bowl, and I would chop like this and I would scrape in like that. And my ex would say, you can go over there if you want to.
Yeah, you're so used to a small space. That's good though.
How are you finding food prep? I mean, I know might not be for everybody. It's my job to prep food in some way or another, but you still need to eat. So how do you find that?
Well, I'm not living in the van at the moment full time. I'm about a week away from moving in. But when I was in my previous van and sort of living in that long term, I loved cooking in it. I basically I don't have an oven though. So the only thing I have is a hob. So I have like a two gas hob. So most of the stuff I was cooking was, in like a saucepan. And I mean, in my first van, it was quite hard because I couldn't stand up in it. So I would literally be like crouching on my knees, trying to like chop things up. Like, yeah, you would have probably hated it. But I was also in Portugal at the time, and it was obviously very nice weather. And I had a backup outdoor gas cooker, because with the gas canisters in a camper van, you can't really tell when you're running low. So you could be camping out in the middle of nowhere and your gas runs out and you can't make yourself a cup of tea, which is like really annoying. So I had this spare one, and to be honest, I actually preferred taking the outdoor cooker and cooking on that. So I was doing a lot of like garlic prawns and that kind of stuff. Yeah, which
it sounds really romantic and lovely, the idea of it, but the reality of this country
messy.
is quite different. Well, yeah. So I was lucky in that the water in the caravan had been connected to the mains in the house, so we had hot and cold running full pressure water, which I know makes a big difference. The gas only ever ran out on a Sunday.
Oh no, that's when you need the food.
It only ever ran out on a Sunday. It only ever ran out in winter when it was freezing cold, because it was gas heated as well. And the only place I could get, because I was living in rural North Essex, which most people think Essex is like towns and suburbia. It's not. North Essex is rural. I mean, we were surrounded by farms, and it was only a 15-minute drive to the garage that sold the colour gas. But if the garage was closed, there was nowhere to get 24-hour gas. So if the gas ran out, the gas ran out. Luckily, my in-laws wouldn't let us freeze, and I could go in and cook. So I never sort of play the whole, woe is me because I lived in a caravan. It was hard. I always had a backup, and I think that's the pressure up. But I loved being resourceful with space.
Yeah,
I loved. Everything sort of shrinks down, the space that you work in, the way in which you store things, the way that you cook things.
That's what I was saying. Like I just have so much less stuff because I obviously don't have very, very many places to put it. And I'm living at my parents' at the moment because I've been converting the van. And it's just awful the amount that I online shop. And like when I get into the van, I just don't do any shopping because obviously for one, I can't get the post delivered, and two, there's no point in me shopping because I have nowhere to put anything. But it's a really nice way to kind of like cleanse and like not be so materialistic and just realize that actually the outfits that I've got are fine for right now. I don't need to order anything. I don't need to order a new dress for the weekend. I'll just wear, what I've already got. So it's quite a nice way to sort of just strip back a bit and live a bit more of a simple life.
So you've kind of, you're Marie Kondoing your life basically because you have no choice. But I did, so I had come from, I'm trying to think what I moved out of. I moved out of it was a 2-bedroom house. I think it was about, a 1,500 square foot house. It was huge.
We had lots of stuff.
Oh, I mean, we burnt so much stuff. It sounds really dramatic. Burnt so much stuff, but stuff got sold, stuff got thrown away. And you do. I mean, I filled every inch of space in that caravan. And when it came to moving out, it took 16 boxes to empty it. And I didn't think I could get that much stuff in the caravan, but you do, because every last, and when I say inch, I mean literally. I had stuff crammed in stuff and crammed inside stuff and inside stuff and inside stuff. So I used to think to myself, where's that cake tin? And I'd have to pull the bed out to get to this one cake tin. But you do become resourceful and you do learn to appreciate what you do have, and you question not just whether you need something, it's whether you can actually accommodate it physically in your life. So I'm hoping that you get to save some money using that method.
I hope so too. I mean, I've spent quite a lot trying to get the van sorted, but I mean, I was saying before, that's kind of the reason that I'm in this situation, because I was living in a really nice flat and I had all these like, nice furniture, and when the pandemic hit, I lost all my work, and suddenly it was like, financially it was a real struggle and really scary. And this way of living, whilst my work is really great now and I'm like fully like full books, but it's still a scary time, and as a freelancer it can be difficult. You don't know, we're still in the pandemic, so this way of life is just, it's quite good for me right now because I don't have that rent to pay, I don't have like all this stuff that's outgoing and like I'm constantly spending on. I hope, I mean, I'll probably get on the road and I don't know, end up buying things that I don't need.
Well, I think, I mean, I had in the caravan, I had the small oven. When I say small, I mean it was tiny. I did have to buy specialist baking trays for this oven because it was just like nothing I owned fit apart from like a single cake.
That's amazing though. So you were making like baking cakes, and what were you making? I
made a 2-tier wedding cake in the caravan.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, you're putting me to shame now with my garlic prawns.
Well, no, I think that's great. Well, I'm going to do in the future. I'm going to write a cookbook, I think, on surviving in small spaces or baking.
Oh my gosh, yes. I was, one of the things that I wanted to do when I move into the van full time is do a bit of a series of my van meals, because I think a lot of people do question it because I don't obviously have the oven, and you kind of get a little bit creative with what you can do in a saucepan, I guess. So I was thinking about doing that for like my TikTok and stuff, but it's kind of similar for like students in a way, because I don't think students, when they first like move into their student digs, like I definitely didn't know how to like cook and stuff, and it's quite like a good way to sort of learn in like a small space when you don't have a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and like I said, it's being resourceful and saying, okay, I don't need 7 bowls to make one salad. I can literally just do everything in one bowl. And it's when you're washing up in a washing up bowl that is literally the size of a shoebox, you start to think, all right, how can I stop the amount of washing up that I need to do? Because it's just ridiculous. Like caravans are really cute and twee, and like it's a nice idea, but sort of
honestly, I'm scared about people asking me how many times I actually shower when I move into the van. I don't want to answer that question.
No. When in future, don't do Zoom, just do voice calls.
Yeah, you can't smell me over Zoom.
No, that's fine.
Well, birds, what did you think of Amy, and are you considering this life of freedom and
100%.
minimalism?
I was so inspired. I said to Jeremy, the producer, earlier, actually, I wish I was 28. So with no
Children, say it, Hayley.
children. I was trying to think of a way to phrase it nicely. With no commitments. And I could just, and responsibilities, yeah. And I could just jump in a van, do it up and just drive around
That
wherever.
was my advice, honestly. What to do before having children. Don't worry about clothes or travel. Go. Be free, because once you've got kids and a dog, you
don't even need to say kids there, Meredith. Once you've got the dachshund, you live in that place forever.
Absolutely. Go and have the adventures now, for sure.
I've been trailing her on social media, absolutely tingling with excitement to watch, because I love the idea or the novelty of living in a small space, being self-sufficient, etc. I think I'm a little too old to not see the potential pitfalls. And so I would be very interested, and I hope that Amy does highlight the problems she's going to face. Bearing in mind, living in a flat, with bills and council tax and rubbish like that, I suppose are my pitfalls. So what she lacks in council tax, for example, she'll make up for in having to empty her own bodily waste, stuff like that from a tank.
It sounds great fun, but I just don't know how I could streamline to have all my shit with me.
It's not just that. I think it's also just. We'll talk about it. In fact, I'll talk about it now, because the reason I thoroughly enjoyed the interview, and I wanted to be a part of it. Sorry, Meredith, for literally just walking in the room and joining you. But
no, I wanted you to be a part of it because of the whole cooking thing. Because she was like, "Well, I kind of just fry."
Well, I lived in a caravan for nearly 3 years. It was a sort of, wasn't a social experiment, but it was basically to see if my now ex and I could save money for a mortgage. And we could. We lived at what were my in-laws, and unfortunately, there just wasn't space in the house. Well, there was, but apparently not enough. And I'm glad now that I didn't move in, because I think it challenges every relationship. So we ended up with a caravan in the back garden, and it was the most. I think everybody laughed at us. And so that spurred me on to make it work. And I did. I lived in it for 3 years. I cooked 3 meals a day in that for 2 people. I washed up, I showered. I made countless custom cakes, one of which was a 3-tier wedding cake in a caravan.
In a caravan?
In a caravan. It is perfectly possible to do this.
What sort of caravan was it, Stephen? Was it
It was a
one of the ones
Coachman
that you
Armara 420/2. And every time I see one hurtling down the M4, I get a shudder of cold down my spine.
But there are static homes that you can't trail along, that actually sort of
Yes,
have
you get
to be
static
winched
units, which are the
in
ones
as
you see
well.
in the parks and like on the holiday parks.
Okay.
And you get tourers and then campers. So we were
Okay.
essentially in a touring caravan that just didn't move. Obviously, we were very lucky in that we were hooked up to mains water, so hot and cold running water was never a problem. Pressure, so for example, but if it was done with gas canisters, if it was a Sunday afternoon, you were cooking a roast and your gas ran out. You didn't have an electric oven.
I couldn't cope with that, living on the edge. Honestly, that would just. I lived at my mum lives in the middle of. No, but my mum lives in the middle of nowhere, as you know, Stephen. We moved out of bustling Highgate to go and live there, and I had been used to lights that work, waters that ran, and suddenly it was like, oh, the oil's run out, oh, the water pressure's gone because someone in Albury's having a bath. I can't. That really stresses me out. There is a girl who I follow, my friend Astrid's daughter, Molly. She's got an Instagram account called Molly's Mobile Home, and the only way her and her boyfriend could even think about moving out was to get one of these static homes. And she's brilliant in that she's made it look so appealing, but she has said they are so cold.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they are. Although they heat up very quickly, which is ironic. It's like a car. It's like when you get into your car on a wintry morning. Yes, it's colder, but it takes a lot less time to heat it up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it isn't a case of you just cannot get it warm in the winter. Or...
No. It's like having a convertible car. Like, it doesn't keep the heat, but it gets warm quickly, I think.
Roger's mum and dad have got a static, which we stay in when we go up to visit them.
Your husband, right?
Roger's my husband, yeah.
Happy anniversary, Roger and Hayley.
Thank you, thank you. 12 years today.
12 years,
Yes.
married in Vegas.
I deserve a medal.
Put a picture on social of those
I will.
legs 11.
So Roger's parents had a...
Yeah, they have got a static in North Yorkshire, which we stay in when we go up to visit, because they've only got a small flat, and we love staying in there. But if you go early in the year, you wake up in the morning and it is cold. You can see your breath, but it does. You're right, Stephen. You stick the heating on and it just fires up pretty quickly. But it's it's lovely.
I think what's nice about Amy's story is that, she didn't pick up a saw 6 months ago, but she's learned all of these skills that means she can.
She's done it all herself.
She can fix anything that she needs to, and she does it all herself.
So she's done this already in a much smaller van. So she sort of knew what improvements to make. She knew what she could live without.
Yeah.
Just so fascinating that she's had to, I've got this little sink. It's a mock Belfast, but it's brilliant. But the compromise you have to make with either storage or water. And she was saying that something that's really important as well, this was, I think, off audio, was that just a little shower before you get in the van after coming off the beach, because otherwise you've just got sand in your van, and then you've got sand in your van forever.
Yeah.
You haven't got a
Where does she
Hoover.
shower?
So she uses shower blocks. That's what she'll do. She'll rock up at somewhere where there's shower blocks. She's got this app. But she has now developed, because I think she said she could carry, oh God, was it 10 litres? Her last one was 3 and this is 10. But she has got now a little hand shower. So she opens the back of the van, pulls the curtain round, and she can actually shower off her nun if necessary, I guess. Which I think is sort of...
Any other part of the body, or just specifically there?
You don't
Well,
want
I
a
would be
sandy...
thinking...
No
but,
one's sandy nun.
but Stephen and I have had this chat.
Itchy.
We chat about that kind of life. Trust me, there are times when I've felt very close.
Let's
to
not go down that road, Meredith. Keep
No.
on track. Keep on track. I don't want to know about where you get sand.
No. But but the thing is, the one thing that puts me off ever going in a caravan or anything like that is the loo and the washing situation. As women, there are times of the month where I don't want to walk to a shower block after waking up. I want to wash immediately. So I love the fact that she's got this option to sort of shower, by her. That it's really clever what she's done. But obviously that's come with a compromise, because a bigger water tank means less storage. But if you look at what she's done, but 100% water would be a priority for me. I could go without a cooker, providing I could wash my bits.
Wash your bum crack.
I'm totally inspired.
Natalie, I'm intrigued by you, Natalie, because us 3 old crusties are like, now we need to wash our nuns. But you...
I'd like to be locked in a van with Ryan.
I was just thinking that. Imagine going on the road with... Natalie, would you consider this for you and Ryan? Because I know you're sort of young and starting your lives together.
No.
Do you think you two could do this, or even you on your own? Not saying that, right? If Ryan needs babysitting, I think it's
He's an Aussie. Aussies can sort of,
I mean, it would be a lot easier, I think, in Australia if we were to do it, because the whole showering outside your van in England doesn't really appeal. I could do it.
Arrestable offence, isn't it?
But yeah, in Australia with like good weather and stuff. But I'm actually really inspired by listening to Amy, because Ryan and I are moving next week to a little one bed in Highgate in London,
and you've sold your kidney to do so.
Yeah. But we were looking at a 2-bed place, because we're both working from home. I'm a voiceover artist, so I need my recording studio and self-tape set up and stuff. And we've given up a second bedroom to be in a good area. And I'm kind of thinking, is it going to be too small? Are we going to regret this? Like, it's just a 1 bed. It's not huge. But, listening to Amy has made me feel like, any space is livable. It's how we use the space that I think is going to be... important in
and you'll just take what's important with you, and you realise how much shit you accumulate over the years.
Yeah, my family are quite not minimalist, because we're not, but my dad doesn't like any sort of clutter anywhere, so I think I've kind of got that from him as well. Although my mum is a bit of a hoarder, so she'll have like the loft is full of like old clothes and.
Good girl, Mrs. Spence. Good girl. You keep your stuff.
So I've got a bit of both of them. But I'm so I've been listening to loads of minimalist podcasts recently, and I'm so inspired to just declutter and get rid of all these things. And I've in the past I've been to Fiji, and I've been travelling quite a bit with work and jobs and things, and all I take is a suitcase, and it is so freeing to just not have so much stuff. I know, Meredith, you're probably shivering.
Do you know? And the other, but it's a lot about clothes for me. I mean, my big clutter is clothes from sort of years and years always working in fashion or getting discount or whatever. I mean, we used to get staff discount when we worked at Monsoon in the 90s, and I still have that stuff. But you know what? I can be sat and I'll be watching or scrolling through Instagram, and someone will go, "Oh God, I just found this really amazing batik pinafore dress," and I'm like, I've fucking got one of them, and I will go in the loft and I will find it, and the thought of not being able to find it because I gave it away, I just can't do it. I like my things around me, I really do. But I am a massive hoarder. But Jeremy said to me once, things are capital. If you've got stuff, you can sell it, and I kind of, it's a bit of that, I can always sell these clothes one day. So I always think you're never going to starve if you've got shit.
But then also, but then I think that sort of takes away from what Amy's doing. It's the opposite of what Amy's doing, which she says,
exactly.
I have nothing, and I will continue to survive with nothing. But we are a materialistic society.
Yes, we are. We're terrible. But because the choice I have to make.
Even Mr. Spence, I'm sure,
yeah, he has
things that. You know, I know he likes nice white clean cupboards and glorious kitchens, but yeah, but no, exactly.
It's about 20 watches that he never wears.
Exactly.
But that's capital.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, I think you've got to be very careful. But this sort of idea of just blitzing and have you worn this in a year? No, well, get rid of it. Well, actually, I've got stuff in my wardrobe I haven't worn for 10 years. Suddenly they come back in fashion and I'm like, woo, save myself some money. So
how do we feel about Marie Kondo?
I wouldn't let her in my house.
But does it? I love the idea of what sparks joy. You know, if it doesn't spark joy, say thank you and goodbye.
Yeah, but I can genuinely say, Natalie, I agree with you on that. But I have watched Jeremy putting up 158,000 different Christmas decorations, and each one brings him a sense of joy. I think it is.
Every wrestling figure brings him so much joy.
Well,
when I first moved out on my own, it was just only last year at 37, I moved out into a place on my own, and it's only temporary, it's a sort of a social experiment, but I found the hardest thing was throwing things away that I'd kept for decades, but the pain was very short-lived, and now I have rules, which is if something comes into the house, something must leave. Otherwise there's this sort of air of stagnation.
I've got that view with people.
Yeah, that's true. You notice, Meredith, I never let you in.
I just find that clutter just makes me really anxious. And if there's too much stuff everywhere, I can see the mess and it just makes me really anxious. I'm just like, okay, well, if I want to keep it, then, and if there isn't any room for it, then I need to make compromises elsewhere because it's just too much.
Yeah.
I'm so sentimental. I think that's the problem. I'm not a hoarder. I am sentimental, and I literally will go and throw away. The worst thing was when my kids used to come home with fucking art installations made out of 5 cereal boxes. And I can't. How do you throw that away? How do you burn
What do you do
that?
with it?
It's all in the loft.
Yeah.
Oh no, it goes in the bin when they're sleeping.
No.
Oh, yes, Hayley.
Goes in the bin when they're sleeping.
My mum tells this story how she woke up one day and my grandmother had given all her toys to Dr. Bernardo's and she never got over it. And I just think,
But we were taught from a young age that when we were finished with something, another little child, because my granny used to give everything to Bernardo's, but we were taught if we were finished with something, then another little child could benefit from it. But I think things like having mental illness problems over the years made me sort of hang on to what I thought were happy memories, but when I let them go I realised I was just sort of holding on to what I thought was a better time. So it's emotional as well. But I'm going to ask Natalie what Ryan's like, because you're just about to embark on probably the most stressful thing that you can put into a relationship, and that is to move into a tin can, basically. Yeah. But are you aligned with like hoarding and not hoarding?
I think we are very similar in the way that like we're a bit of both. Because Ryan's moved from Australia, he has 2 suitcases worth of belongings to his name here in the UK. So I think it's going to be my stuff that's going to take over the flat.
You're the problem, basically.
I'm the problem.
So you've got to make your memories, buy art together. You've been to my house, Natalie, and I've got art everywhere. And 5 of my paintings hanging on this wall are my grandparents who bought from Highgate Village, or the artists that used to sit and paint. So there is so much you two can do together and buy together. And actually, you're supporting a young artist who's just sketching. I mean, I think they still do it around Highgate and around Highgate Pond. You can buy it off them. And actually, you find out you've bought yourself something that this artist has gone on to be everything. So I think that's really exciting. You two can buy art together and have those memories.
The problem is with the place that we're moving to, it's already got quite a lot of stuff in it because it was used as an Airbnb before they decided to rent it out.
You're going furnished.
So it's fully furnished.
Ooh,
and
I
it's
like
even
that.
it's got everything, kitchen utensils and everything. So we're kind of a bit like,
wow.
Oh
in a
my
way, it's
God.
great because it saves us money because we don't need to go to IKEA and spend 500 quid on like stuff that we need for the house. But also, there's just a lot of stuff in there that I might have to sort through and store somewhere.
Have they got somewhere where you can store it? Or we're literally going off on a whole conversation. I'm absolutely fascinated.
Meredith, would you live in a van like Amy's for a week?
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. I would.
For a month?
I could do a month.
I
could do a month.
Yeah. Could you?
know
what's the most you could do?
Well, my friend
40 hours.
has got a camper van. He's got a Volkswagen camper van, and the 4 of us went away for the weekend last year, and it was really, really good fun. You do have to use a shower block, obviously, but you can cook everything there. It's really lovely, but it's with 4 people in there. It's a real squeeze. If I was on my own, or just me and Rog, I would probably be able to do it for, I don't know, I'd like to say I could do 6 months or more.
So I was genuinely in the shower this morning thinking, it's my birthday coming up. I really have no inclination to go to a pub or a club or anything like that, even when lockdown's lifted. And I was thinking, I'd like to maybe get a canal boat because we live all around the canals here. It's so beautiful. I've never been on, and I'm always fascinated by them when we go for our walks, peering in and how amazing. And I sort of thinking about it, and I was honestly thinking I could probably do one night.
This may sound like a weird question, stupid question. Do you get seasick on canal boats?
Well, I don't think the water moves that much, but I'm sure, because
When boats go past,
don't they?
When boats go past, though, they do. It does rock the boat.
But put it this way: in high
Rock
winds,
the
we
boat,
lived.
baby.
The caravan was in Stansted. It was just about. It was two.
planes going over.
Well, no, it was 2 miles as the crow flies from Stansted Airport. So at 11 o'clock at night, you'll love this. At 11 o'clock at night, the FedEx carriers used to take off, which are the Airbus
Freight
A380s
trains,
converted.
massive.
Yeah, but the A380s are the largest planes in the world, and they were the freight carriers. They would leave Stansted and go over to the States. And at 11 o'clock at night, it was that scene from the original Mary Poppins with Julie Andrews. You know, when they set the cannons off and everyone has to hold something still. It was like that in the caravan because at 11 o'clock you would hear this and it would take off and go over the caravan and shake the shit out of it. And on a windy day, it shook. You had to go. You had no choice. It just
Don't come knocking if
just-
the van is rocking.
Nothing. I can tell you that didn't happen either.
The idea of moving house or downsizing would be hell or hideous. I hate change. The thought of change and having to do anything like that terrifies me. But funnily enough, I adapt faster than anyone I know. Really do. I remember I moved to Switzerland when I was 18 and I was so homesick on the first night, like to the point of, I can't believe I've done this. I can't believe I've left all my mates. They were all going to uni. I wasn't going to uni, so I went to Switzerland and really, really roughing it. And I remember my mum saying, "Have a
I
PG
went to
tips."
India travelling.
Yeah, I know exactly. But I was
went to
au pairing.
Switzerland.
I was au pairing.
Oh, is there no pair in Switzerland?
Because I don't fucking camp, because I won't use a portaloo, because I get psychological constipation. That's the bottom line. So I just...
Basically, she can't go in a caravan because she wouldn't give a shit.
I wouldn't be able to. Yeah, I need my space. Like literally, everyone leaves the house and I feel my bowels relax. Honestly, I've shared
Psychological
too much.
constipation. I'm going to put that on a T-shirt for you.
Yeah,
guys.
that please, can you?
Psychologically
Netflix.
constipated.
But I remember my mum saying, make yourself a cup of PG tips because I'd taken some PGT, it's so British, and have a shower and just enjoy, think about how exciting your new life is. I think it took about 6 hours. I didn't give it. It was like suddenly my friends in England were like, "Hey, remember us?" It's. I don't know if it's a Gemini thing, Stephen. We hate it and we make a big drama and we're like, "Oh," and then suddenly, if we're forced into a situation, I think it's
We adapt. We
fight
are very
or
quick to
flight
adapt.
or
I
fly
don't
or
believe
whatever it
you
is.
make a drama, Meredith. I don't believe that.
I know.
That's
I don't
not you at
believe
all.
that.
I know. I was talking to a friend about when KLM lost my luggage for 5 days when I went to Ibiza, and I was the worst person for that to happen to.
Yeah, I remember when that happened to me in
She
Italy,
still goes
and
on about it now.
Yeah, I will never, ever. I won't even talk to Dutch people anymore.
I have heard that story twice in the last
Lost
few
in.
days.
The thing is that my luggage was lost in fucking Amsterdam because I'd been such a cheapskate. Flying to Ibiza, I found a cheaper deal with a change in Amsterdam. So it's entirely my own self-inflicted.
That's exactly how I
fault.
lost my luggage in Italy. I flew KLM via Amsterdam.
Schiphol loses
Never do it.
everything. And they act as though you are overreacting. They're like, it'll turn up. And it's like, no, my stuff is in there. And it's like, my stuff, my contact
imagine that?
lenses.
Spitting as
I'd
she
find that
says,
freeing. I just swear the same
I'm going to be
thing.
psychologically constipated.
Well, that's the other thing as well. To staying in a hotel with someone on honeymoon. I mean, that's the other thing. I was psychologically constipated. So Jeremy and I used to go to breakfast. We'd go. Someone told me
I
once
got a
was
tan on my honeymoon. That just shows you what happens.
Someone once told me, "Oh, you're a psychological defecator." Genuinely, because because I've had problems with my bowels and things in the past, and it's not that they're lazy; it's psychological. They're not lazy bowels. It's literally a case of I couldn't go on Big Brother because of it.
what I love is we
that's the
started
thing.
talking about living in a van. We've ended up with Meredith's mentally ill bowels.
So I in my head I see shower blocks. So when you talk about these shower blocks, I see the scene
I
from
kind of want
Scum.
Meredith to go to prison just to see what.
Yes, exactly. I see the scene from
She'd be
Scum.
psychologically constipated,
Yeah.
Stephen. She couldn't.
She'd die of shit poisoning. Her body would literally implode on itself.
You would explode.
No,
and
it
it'd be
would just-
shit everywhere.
No, I would just start self-absorbing my own toxins and just become more and more vile.
Oh, that'd be so shit.
No, but literally.
It wouldn't though.
Actually, I did want to say I used to have a camper van, a bright yellow VW 1970 camper van, and I took it with my ex-boyfriend. We went to a wedding once in the camper van. It was just like Peppa Pig's van. I don't know what that looks like, but all the kids loved it, and we were like doing tours of the camper van, and we stayed in it overnight, and it was
That
amazing.
is brilliant. Okay, so that I think is enough to make me want to buy a caravan. I went to my cousin's wedding and it was at their house in the middle of nowhere. And 2 a.m, okay, want to get a cab. Nobody could get cabs.
Yeah.
Some clever people had bought camping equipment. The ones in the camper vans, they were laughing.
Yeah,
And I
it was
think
brilliant.
that is enough for wedding season. Don't bother, stay on site.
Yeah, it's perfect.
I think that's brilliant. Do you regret getting rid of that?
Oh, 100%. And my dad does. Totally regrets it because it would be worth a lot more now because it's from 1970. And it was just such a great van. It was so pretty. It was so happy. It was just amazing.
Did she have a name?
She was called Bubbles.
You see, because Amy's, we think, is called Consuela.
Consuela.
All I will say is about these, which is a lovely idea, is I did drive down to Wales yesterday on the M4, and if I see another camper van or caravan driver doing 19 miles an hour just because they want to look at the trees around them, I will drive them off the road into a ravine. Understood? They have engines, they are fast.
Disclaimer.
You can drive the speed limits.
We would always condone safe driving. Well, thank you very much, guys. Good luck to Amy. We're going to check in on her. I love that the conversation went from vans to poos and
All sorts.
spiders. But, that's for calling birds. Thank you so much from all of us. Goodbye, and we will see you next week.
Bye, birds.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of For Calling Birds. Don't forget to check out the show notes for more details about how you can get in touch with us, subscribe, follow us, or buy some of our great For Calling Birds merchandise. Check out the merch. Sorry, that was terrible, wasn't it? Anyway, thanks so much for listening. See you again next week.
When I think of camping and communal shower blocks, I think of the film Scum. I'm sorry, I
haven't seen it.
Well, it's
Don't
just
watch
a
it.
horrible shower block scene in a prison. But that is, the thought of having to go to a shower block fills me, especially after Jeremy treated me one year to Butlins for my birthday.
Oh,
And
I used to go to
within
Butlins all the time.
Well, why?
My kids love Butlins.
Next birthday, Natalie, I'll
Let's
treat you
go.
to a trip to Butlins.
Within 1 minute of being in a swimming pool, a swimming nappy floated up past my head. I got out because I was like, sod this. Had a shower. I mock ye not 9 fucking elastoplasts on the shower floor, just in my cubicle. You dirty bastards. No. No. I will have my shit and my clutter and be able to poo when everyone goes out the house. Thank you. I will not.
I always wear flip-flops in a shower block. I never go barefooted in a shower block. It's the other people's hair and on the floor around my toes.
I'm the kind of person that will just take a hair out of my dinner and still eat it.
Natalie, no.
Oh, I'll do that. As long as it's not pubic, I don't mind. I carry on eating.
No, I
difficult to
would
tell
use
though
that
sometimes.
opportunity to get free sandwiches for the rest of my life for that. So I'd be devastated, angered by it, but then capitalise on it.